Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rank and File Sports with Jonah and Connor. Today we're going to be continuing our schedule previews with the Kansas State Wildcats. We're going to be doing a preview for every single Power 4 team as well as a few Group of 5 teams, so please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on your favorite team's video, as well as our official predictions over the summer. Taking a look at the schedule, there's going to be a lot of tough games on here. You start in Dublin, Ireland with Iowa State, and also road trips to Baylor and Kansas, who we think are going to be improved this season, as well as some difficult home games against TCU and Texas. Overall, you got 6 games at home, 5 on the road, and that neutral site game against Iowa State gives Kansas State an overall schedule difficulty of 5 out of 10.
Yeah, like Jonah was saying, starting the season off against Iowa State in Ireland. If you watched our Iowa State video, you know that this is essentially a coin flip. Both teams are returning their starting quarterbacks with Rocco Becht for Iowa State and Avery Johnson for Kansas State. Avery Johnson is coming off a very successful season as the starter after Will Howard transferred out to join the Ohio State Buckeyes. And he's poised to have another very successful season. Obviously, he's a very good dual threat quarterback. But since both these teams are returning so many players and have had such successful seasons past couple of years, we're going to have this at about a 50-50 chance for either team to come out with a win. Following week against North Dakota, not much needs to be said. Kansas State, 100% chance getting a win here. Next week, Army. Army obviously did have a very good season last year, but a lot of their wins were against not as good teams, and the losses they did have were against some of the ranked teams, including Notre Dame, which they were blown out in. So, not giving Army too much of a chance here, especially with it being a home game for Kansas State. So, we have this as a 90% chance for Kansas State to get a win. And then on the road against Arizona, Arizona obviously is losing Teteroa McMillan at wide receiver, but they are returning Fafita as their starting quarterback. Should be interesting, but overall, Kansas State should have more offensive weapons to keep up with Noah Fafita at quarterback, and then their defense should be able to take control of the game as it goes into the later quarters. So, giving them about a 70% chance in this one going into their first bye week.
Yeah, after that bye week, you're playing UCF at home. First game in the Big 12. I know they played Arizona before the bye week. That's actually a non-conference game, despite them both being Big 12 teams. Make it make sense. But anyways, you start off Big 12 play with UCF. This one's at home. The Knights struggled last season. Kansas State just they're the better team. They got the home field advantage. Nothing's guaranteed, but this one we're going to give about a 75% chance for the Wildcats. Next up, you're going on the road to Baylor. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Baylor, we do think, is going to be improved this season, but the defense is what hurt them last year. And I think it could be what hurts them again in this game, which is why we have Kansas State as slight favorites, even though they're on the road. It's going to be another close one, but the Wildcats, with their offense, should be able to win, even if this one becomes a shootout. Next up is TCU at home. And this is another close game, in my opinion. TCU should have a really good season. I think Josh Hoover had a great season last year. He lost his whole receiving core, so somebody's going to have to step up there. But if they are able to just get him some good enough targets to throw to, this is going to be a good TCU team. That being said, in a road environment, you got to give the edge to Kansas State. So we have them at about a 65% chance for the Wildcats to get a win heading into bye week number 2.
Coming out of that bye week, they will have the in-state rivalry game at Kansas. Kansas obviously had a very disappointing season last year. They were expected to finish near the top of standings in the Big 12 and didn't come close to meeting those standards. But now they're looking to bounce back. They still have Jalen Daniels at quarterback, who, as we have seen the past 2 seasons, is a very tough quarterback to play against. Good arm strength and very good on the ground as well. It's going to be, once again, that battle of returning quarterbacks and who ends up wanting it more. I could see this one going either way. Rivalry games are so hard to predict, especially with this being at Kansas. But for the time being, we're giving the edge to Kansas State once again, just because they have had more success and have been maintaining that success over the past couple seasons compared to the Jayhawks going up and down in terms of how successful they will be. After that, they will face off against the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Texas Tech is going to be a dark horse team that not very many teams are going to want to play just because you never know what will happen. I think they're going to be a very good matchup for the Wildcats. Still going to favor the Wildcats in this one, giving them a 65% chance to win at home. But this is one to watch out for, especially going into their final bye week. You could see them dropping this game and maybe causing some problems down the stretch.
Yeah, out of that bye week, you got 3 games to end the season, 2 of them on the road. First one of those is Oklahoma State, the only team to fail to win a game in the conference last season. Not sure if that'll be the case again this year. They get home field advantage in this one, but Kansas State is going to be one of the top teams in the conference, in our opinion. Avery Johnson is going to have a really good season. I don't quite see Oklahoma State being able to pull out a win at home over Kansas State. After that, you got Utah, another really disappointing team last season. And this one, again, we're giving the edge to Kansas State, not by quite as much as we did against Oklahoma State, but I still think the Wildcats are going to be able to get it done on the road before they come back home for one final game against Deion Sanders and Colorado. This one, we're giving them about a 75% chance to win. Colorado lost a lot last season. They're going to be a tough team to predict this year until we get into the season and really know what they're working with. For right now, I don't think Colorado is going to be as good as they have been the past couple of years. So give me Kansas State at about a 75% chance to win. Looking at the schedule, I'm seeing a lot of games on here that could go either way. Most of them are favored slightly towards Kansas State, but just looking at the percentages, I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 losses. They're going to slip up somewhere, I think. So I'm thinking 10-2 for Kansas State right now.
Yeah, if you've watched many of our Big 12 videos, you know that we're predicting the Big 12 is going to be very competitive. There's going to be a lot of teams right around the same record, both conference-wise and just overall. So this is going to be a pretty tough schedule for the Wildcats. But I think considering that Avery Johnson is returning and they're going to have that stability at quarterback, it's going to help them get through this season and get through those like 50-50 games or the 60% chances that we have for them. But like you said, there's going to be a game where they're going to slip up. There's going to be something where they're just going to be outmatched. So they're going to lose a weird one. The Iowa State game is obviously the biggest game on their schedule, but those road trips to Baylor and to Kansas are two to watch out for. And the Texas Tech game and the TCU game are also two teams that we think are going to be very, very good next season. So you can pick and choose here. I'm right with you. I think 10-2 is probably where they're going to end up, but I could see them going 11-1. If they were to beat Iowa State and look really good, maybe they go undefeated, but somewhere between 2 to 3 losses is probably where they'll end up, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, that Iowa State game is really going to determine the season. I think if they win that, they're going to have a really good shot of going 10-2. If you lose that, I still really think that they could lose 2 more games on this schedule and potentially fall to 9-3. Looking at last season, the Wildcats went 9-4. And their projected win total based off of all of those percentages from the last screen is going to be 8.4 and 3.6. So just under that 9-3 win total that we were basically saying, not necessarily their floor, but probably the lowest that we'd predict them to go. That being said, we're going to go ahead and go with 10-2. So kind of spoils our early prediction for that game in Dublin. I think Kansas State's going to get that one done, and they will drop 2 games the rest of the season. We're going to go ahead and take Kansas State to finish this year 10-2. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.